Hey, everybody. So, what I want to talk about is just a really important component of navigating these energies and also just awakening, right? And it's this idea of safety. And for all of us, we have our own personal concept of what safety is, but developing a kind of a framework or even an idea or even just writing out a list of what is safe to you can be just a really useful way of keeping you regulated, right? So the name of the game in 2026 and 2027 and I don't know, until there's a new game in town, is really about managing your state. So even right now, just listening to this, you might become aware, like, okay, what is my state? Is there a little bit of panic there? I think many of us, we live with just this sort of kind of electric energy in the background. It's a source of panic, a kind of a fastness, kind of an urgency and an element of urgency, a sort of an energy of urgency that just sort of exists a little bit like the background music in our lives. And knowing that this, like what we want to kind of become aware that this is going on, because this state of panic, this state of urgency, this state of, say, unrest, it's contributing to the physical reality that we encounter. So the thing that I always come back to is, state is what determines your personal reality. A great example of this is, that when you are in kind of holiday mode, when you're in that sort of place of deep relaxation and deep calm, life is way more pleasant. And then you also can recognize yourself when you are in a kind of an unregulated, a dysregulated state where you feel under a huge amount of pressure and you feel a lot of stress, then reality tends to just break down. Reality becomes a miserable place where you suffer. So the aim of the game now is just about managing the external reality, not through action and not through fixing, but through state awareness and state management, state manipulation, you could even say, because your state is something that you can control. You cannot control external reality, albeit you can, but only indirectly. There's no point. External reality that we encounter is kind of just it's the symptom. It's very much a sort of to use a famous quote: "If you build it, they will come." So if you build it is your state, and then the reality that you encounter is they will come. So if you build stress and pressure and urgency, then the thing that will come is chaos. If you build calm and relaxation and groundedness, then the thing that will come is just flow, right? So this brings us to this idea of safety. And it could be useful if you have a pen and paper, actually, just to begin to think about this. So when I think about safety, for me, safety exists in different ways. So for me, safety is having a week with no plans. Also I'm in a relationship, so my partner has plans that involve me. There's these things that happen in relationships where you plan together to do things. And for me, having a week, like knowing that the week is beginning, where there's no plans, immediately creates a great sense of safety in me. And I'll often kind of like say this to my partner. I'll be like, especially if we've had a week where I feel I've overextended myself, I'll just say to her, hey, no plans next week. No matter what, no plans. And it doesn't mean that I don't do anything, but I don't have this anticipation that I'm about to do something. So it allows me to kind of decide in the moment. Another thing that creates a lot of safety for me is having a full fridge. So when we were kids, we grew up, and it's not that we were hungry, but we never had a full fridge, and quite often, dinner was like toast or something like that. So for me, having way more food than I can eat on that day creates a huge amount of safety for me. And so I will notice, even say on a day where I feel like I have things, I will notice there's a part of me, and again, this is the pain body, this is the programming, this is the conditioning, will say, no, Connor, it's way more important that you send emails than go shopping to fill your fridge. But I know from the point of view of like self-love that once my fridge is full, my body will feel regulated. Remember this, guys, state before action. My body feels regulated, so then the action that comes, it comes from this very pure state. It comes from a place of I am at peace in the world. So that's another thing. Another thing that creates safety for me is always having a book that I'm enjoying. So, because what this does for me is like when the evening comes around, rather than watch something that might not be so edifying or whatever, I will begin to read a book. And I know that book, especially because it's a book that I'm enjoying, you know what I mean? Like rather than a book that I feel I have to read. Because of that creates a sense of safety in me. So have your own kind of, begin to just develop what are your own kind of safety requirements. I also deliberately don't really book a huge amount of work every week because I don't want to ever feel like that I don't want to get into that place where I can become overwhelmed and where I can feel urgency in my body. So these things, even at another level, I have another way that I introduce safety into my life is just by becoming very aware of the sort of phone calls that I'm going to get that might pull me into somebody else's problems. So I have different family members who occasionally call me, and if I'm not careful, if I'm not aware, right, if my awareness is low, I'll just answer. And then 10 minutes into the call, I'll notice, oh God, I'm being pulled into somebody's drama here. So what I do is I'll simply change their names on my phone to just be, are you sure you want to speak to this person? And then that gives me a kind of a pause. It creates safety. And I know, okay, I'm not going to answer them right now. I don't feel fully resourced. Another thing that can kind of help this, and it also is sort of an adjunct to this thing, is I have kind of neutralized guilt in my life. So in the past, I would have felt a sense of obligation to answer for family, and then as I sort of crept away from that pattern, as I started to break that pattern, I felt a huge amount of guilt. And then I heard it said that guilt is really important. And guilt is actually a sign that you're healing because you're no longer doing the automatic patterning. You're choosing yourself. So recognizing, oh, I'm feeling guilty. This must mean I've broken a pattern, helped me and has helped me a huge amount. So I almost never feel guilty anymore for choosing myself. There are moments when, of course, I regret things and I apologize, and I'm not a complete monster, but this sort of the manipulative undercurrent of guilt doesn't affect me anymore, or at least when it does, it's very minimal. So that's another way that I've kind of created safety in my life. Another thing that works for me to create safety is that I know every morning at 7 a.m. I'll be meditating. It's just a guarantee. I know that that's what I'm going to be doing, no matter where I am or where I go. And after I meditate, I will journal. And typically the first hour of most of my days, I'm just on a journey inside myself, like meditating and then writing some thoughts. And this for me, what creates safety in my life is that this is a non-negotiable for me. This is just what I do every morning, and it creates safety in that I feel that this is something beautiful that I do for myself. So there could be other things, and I don't drink alcohol. That also is something that creates safety for me, in that I just don't have mood swings. Typically, if there's a funny mood inside my body, it's connected to astrological movements or a specific incident that I can refer to. It's never connected to alcohol. So for a while I would casually drink. So that would mean perhaps, a glass of wine every couple of weeks or something like that. And then on occasion it could be 2 or 3 glasses. But I don't do any of that anymore, and haven't for a while. And that creates more safety. So these are all just elements. For you, it could be it could be something else. Like I also have a certain amount of savings in my bank, and that just kind of makes me feel safe too. It's a certain amount of, like, I remember someone saying, like, the importance of having like a fuck you fund, and so I've given that to myself. So it's enough money that I can just go somewhere and recreate a life, or I can get myself out of a situation, and that creates a lot of safety. So yeah, just this idea, this is what I want to get across. And you might even begin to just notice this, maybe even just begin to kind of like explore the elements of your world through the lens of safety. I've noticed in the last 5 years in my life, I've had a huge shift in friends, and a lot of older friends from my time when I lived in Berlin have just disappeared. They're off the map. I don't know where they are. And in their place, a group of new friends have come in who I would really categorize as safe. And by safe, I mean I don't feel insecure around them. I know that I can be myself with them. I sense that they're being themselves with me. And this just creates a really low level. It creates a kind of, first off, it protects from drama. And then it also just creates a kind of this low hum of safety. You're in the company of people who are coherent. You're in the company of people where you don't have to perform or mask. You're in the company of people who aren't trying to kind of get something for you. They're just simply enjoying your company. So all of these things have been really important for me when it comes to creating a personal sense of safety and having a safety protocol. So that might just be something for you to look at, maybe to journal about what creates safety for you. I feel I could talk a lot about this, but it's things like kind of having certain things, like in winter having like a good coat. For me, a lot of my safety is very material. On rainy days, knowing that I've got waterproof shoes that I can wear. When it comes round to like knowing that when I go to do certain sports, that I have good equipment to do those sports. I know as a kid growing up without certain things, I remember just sometimes feeling a little bit embarrassed in changing rooms because the other boys had, the latest football boot, and I was going around in, what are they called? Hobnobblers, very old football boots that look like they could be in a museum. So these sort of things, and it will be personal for you, but they're really important. And part of your self-love journey, part of your becoming a new character, part of your development is ensuring this safety, ensuring your personal safety. So much of us, right, our personalities, our natural personalities when we were children, they began to corrupt the minute we realized, oh, my safety is not guaranteed. Now, that doesn't mean that you grew up in violence or dysfunction, but there's probably a strong chance that you didn't feel this safe attunement with your family all the time. And there's maybe a good chance that the parents were distracted, parents were in stressed states, so you didn't feel totally safe. And that will have been one of the first pushes for you to adapt your personality, to begin to behave for the crowd rather than for your soul inside. So the way to come back to just living your life for your soul, living your life for you, is to begin to just ensure that you are safe. And your safety can be real, practical, like I get taxis rather than public transport. It can be more emotional, like I have nice lighting in my home, or there's certain soaps in my bathroom. You know, it can be more kind of like comfort levels and things like that. You have to work out what your safety protocol is. But once you have a sense of it, it's really important that you ensure that you do this for yourself. It could even be in terms of the music you play when you're at home. Does the music feel safe? Or does it feel agitating? So that's that, guys. Safety first. I think it's a very interesting thing to write about, journal about, and just begin to like move through your days with this idea of when you're doing things, going, does this feel safe? Oh, I don't know if this feels safe. And so on and so forth. And beginning to just commit to yourself in that way. All right. I feel I could go on listing the things that create safety for me for ages because it's so nice to recognize them. But I'd love to hear from you too, like what creates safety for you, and maybe you'll put it below in the comments if you're also near your Patreon. All right, guys, loads of love, and talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.